Hello and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name's Cole and today we have a very special guest. As always, Gavin is here with me. Gavin, say hello to the people.
What's up, everybody? It's Gavin here, founder of SEPS. Glad to be here.
So we have a very exciting guest. It's Jeremy from Bayside. He's one of their lead sales managers. Jeremy, tell me a little bit about what you do inside of Bayside and what Bayside's up to lately.
Yeah, so basically I joined Bayside, almost a year ago from Halloween of last year. I help lead sales, more of like strategic accounts, high retails, large screen printers, big volume programs. We do a lot of things, man. To be honest, yeah. we're the largest vertical manufacturer in the States. We do a lot of strictly just USA, where we get the cottons from the Carolinas, knit dye cut sewing in Southern California, and so we have a nice little niche, if you want to call it that. That's really kind of unique versus what a lot of other people do as far as imports. So it's a unique spot to be in to supply a USA garment in such an environment. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Like I remember I did a small factory tour over there.
Yeah.
And it seems like you guys work on a lot of stuff that you can't necessarily say you work on.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of like private white label contracts, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of private label because people turn to us literally because we own all of our factories, right? Yeah. So given that we're able to be nimble and kind of create a more unique item versus just, hey, you know what, we're kind of limited to these 5-6 silhouettes. Like people come to us with the most interesting ideas. But guess what? They all check the boxes. It works in their own world. So yeah. It just kind of reminds you how unique our industry is. Like you might think like, why would you want a 16-ounce like super dry starchy sweatshirt? All of a sudden, well, we're selling for $1,200. Like, and we sell like 20,000 pieces of those things, right? So we're like, okay, if you want it, we'll make it.
The price will go up a little.
Yeah. So we do, yeah. And then in short, we do a lot of custom private label, and we do a lot of it. Yeah.
Very cool. So like, is there one crazy brand that you're proud of working with that you can actually name drop, or you're like, we do everything?
Okay. It's funny coming into here. I was almost like, am I allowed, or should I like name drop, be that guy? Because quite honestly, we quietly manufacture for a lot of big brands, just supplying them t-shirts or sweatshirts or whatever it might be. I will say for a decade prior to me coming on board, there was this very large, prominent New York streetwear brand that probably everybody knows that we were supplying the t-shirts for quite some time until they got acquired a few times by other VFs or...
Let me take a guess.
Yeah, there you go. And it was a made in USA shirt. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest one as far as like put it on the moniker. Like, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. And I was kind of caught off guard when I learned we did that. So it was cool.
So you're the source for bootleggers too. If we need to blow up eBay, we know who to call.
Well, the funny thing is that shirt is actually just like a stock item we carry.
Oh yeah.
So anybody has access to that shirt, but it was just like the nominated garment that they wanted to use at the time, and it's still our tried and true shirt today. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, it's funny because your guys' branding. I mean, and not being critical or anything. Yeah, but like your branding is so conservative, straight laced.
Yep.
Like, unions and firefighters, and like that's the kind of brand that you get out of like the Bayside image.
Yeah. And
then you find out that you guys are like the source for like a bunch of rappers or whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see what you really service versus what you present to the rest of the like industry.
No, it's funny. When I joined and I would be walking by the office, kind of get acclimated to the situation, I'd see these random POs on people's desks and stuff. And I'm like, we supply those guys? What? Yeah, what? Like, yeah, everybody's so nonchalant over there. That's kind of just how they want to carry themselves. They want to be the behind the scenes guy, right? They don't want to be forward facing, but quietly we're pretty big. Like overall, like literally footprint, we're almost at 1 million square feet between all of our factories and our main headquarters you've been to in Brea.
Yeah.
That one in particular sits on about 7 acres. So we're quietly big, and we do a lot of cool things. Yep. But you're right. Like on the outside looking in, you're kind of like, oh, you guys make like safety vests and 3M tape and a giant sweatshirt. But yeah, we do a lot of cool things.
So are you guys still privately owned, or is there like a corporate ownership now?
No, private, family owned.
Wow.
4 brothers started it. Geez, almost 3 decades, 28 years now.
It's crazy how this industry seems to be like one of those industries where like you can somehow build up $1 billion company Because that's basically the next level story, the Bella story,
Yeah.
your guys' story. Most industries don't do that. They get acquired so quickly.
Yeah.
And this industry just doesn't move into like buyouts, I guess.
Yeah, the previous company I came from, they got acquired by a big VC guy, and things change over there. And obviously, the climate's different, expectations different. But you're absolutely right. People, once you kind of put your name out there and you build this brand, people want to gravitate towards you and want to make that acquisition, right? Or they want to add it to their portfolio because you have such a large footprint in an industry. But I think from my understanding, there's been quite a few goes at it where people were interested in us, but we love what we do and what they've created, right? And so it's hard to let that go, knowing that you put in so much work, literally coming from ground zero. And I feel like that's every like entrepreneurship's like path, right? Their story. But given like where we're at in the unique space, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, if you're bringing in money and need money,
yeah. And they're all, and the owners, they come in 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You might literally, I swear, like literally, and maybe every other Saturday they're there too. So they go for it, and they're in the back packing orders once in a while. Like they really truly enjoy what they do. Like it's
always
are all about it.
Owners that like the kind of owner that can't go on a permanent vacation.
Yeah.
Like they just get bored by like retiring, and then you see them like hustling and doing stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen a few people now that got the exit, and they last about 6 months pretending like they're going to be on permanent retirement. And about 6 months in, like they've gone to Europe, like they go from Europe to Alaska, they're surfing every morning.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months in, you get a message and they're like, do you think this is a good idea? And it's like, oh, it's over. You're back.
You're back in the game. Like you can't pull away from like the t-shirt world. I hear so many stories about that. Like, dude, we're just selling t-shirts. You still really want to get back into the game?
Yeah.
But you're right. These guys, I mean, yeah, they're all in. I think that's like that waterfall effect, right? That you hear, like whether you have a family or you have a grandfather, whatever it might be. But I think within our organization, you see them out there literally sweating, especially Cali, like the past week, it's been hot, right?
You're not going to air condition 200,000 square feet.
Yeah, and like they're back there loading pallets, getting stuff ready, and dude, these guys are the owners of the company, so you see them working hard. It makes you want to like just do better, and like you really get behind it and you rally behind it, and you really appreciate what they do and kind of what they set up the infrastructure within.
Yeah.
So I mean, go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, so Jeremy, how long have you been with Bayside, and how long have you been doing sales? I'm kind of curious about that.
So Bayside, I've been in for a year. I've been in the supply chain t-shirt industry since like 2000. I started at All Style, AAA, the Stack, the king of the streets, right? Everybody knows that's like the one, right there on 2701. What street? I forgot the street it was, but back in Anaheim. So I started there. And then I moved on to Cotton Heritage to the next level. So I've been doing sales for about over a dozen years, right? But I recently joined Bayside about a year ago. And my past was interesting because I used to come from the footwear industry. And I worked and grew up in Orange County. And so I've been able to kind of network. I'm 42, so I've been able to kind of network with like this interesting group of people from like the early 2000s when it was like the LRG days, the Stussy days. Well, Stussy's still relevant today. They're big, right? But kind of like the Diamonds and of the Hundreds of the world, that whole generational like streetwear cool stuff, if you will. And then, or like Vans. And then all of a sudden it's like, what could I do to kind of still be engaged in that industry, or with the friends that I've met through there? I was like, t-shirts. And so I switched my industry, joined the t-shirt world, and here I am. It's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we did some stuff with LRG in the past. And one thing that's kind of interesting about it is like watching those brands go from extremely hot to now kind of like the older brand.
Yeah.
Have you seen like a good path for managing that? Because it seems like even on a lower level, like you'll see for a screen printing shop, let's say somebody just starts skyrocketing because they do 1,000 units a month.
Yeah.
But then like sustaining that coolness seems unbelievably difficult.
Yeah.
What do you think is like kind of the secret? Like why do some brands last 30 years and others are just super hot for 18 months?
You know what? There's a brand out there, and I won't name names, but I know internally what they do is it could be shocking given like on the business standpoint. They pump the brakes on the amount of doors they open as far as wholesalers that want to carry their product, because they know like if this gets out like a wildfire, you can't tame it. Then it's going to sizzle out pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
So they allow themselves to be relevant, geez, for the last 40 years, right? And they're sustainable. But I think fast forward today with a lot of these brands, I think what allows you to kind of be in the forefront still or still have some sort of edge to it. Quite honestly, there's a lot of brands from the early 2K, 2005, 2010 era that are like, they're just dusted, if you will, or they're kind of on the decline big time. It's almost like you have to surround yourself generationally, but like those next round of kids or cats that are just like super designer and interested, super into like Instagram, social media, what they're doing on that platform, well connected. It allows you to kind of be relevant in that sense. You can kind of spin off what you developed before into like something new, right? Because I think a lot of now, I have a conversation with my friends in the industry still, as you guys probably know too, like, dude, like all these Instagram direct to consumer brands, like Online Ceramics, that's one of many like hidden New York, but they're massive. They got 1 million plus followers. But guess what? When you try to reach out to them to like, hey, let's engage on what blanks you're using, or for yourself, like you ever need a screen print shop, the fulfillment, what are your pain points? You don't know who to hit up.
No.
Like, do you send a DM? But guess what? That dude's probably getting like 1,000 DMs with so many followers. It's very informal. So there's no like formal connection of like, oh, you can find him in Huntington Beach at this address. No, it's like hard to connect with them. But man, those brands are the ones who are pushing it right now. Pushing it as far as volume, like a little hidden gem. And margin,
oh, I know.
Those guys could afford anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. We did a few years ago, we were doing like 1010, which was like a Logan Paul thing.
Yeah.
And he was selling limited edition releases where he would just keep refilling with us over and over.
Yeah.
And he was selling the Gildan 18500, which is like what? Especially back then, it was like $6.
Yeah.
And it was an $80 one color print. And it was just like, when you have an audience, it doesn't matter how bad your product is sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is really frustrating, but that's just how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
If the audience is there, it's crazy the numbers.
The audience is there, and I think the consumer these days, the ones that are 18 to 25, man, they're culture vultures, right? They go for it. Like if it's rad and it's dope and it's cool, or it's that thing, it's that oversized shirt with the puff print that speaks their narrative or their story of like that look, they just buy it, dude. It's crazy. Like I'm so fascinated by like what it's become the last 5 years and how all these brands, even like Antisocial, like 5 years ago, like just blew it up. Yeah. And in a very large way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Definitely there is kind of like a 90s trend in general. And like, what do you guys think about when you're creating blanks for like washes, cuts, styles to kind of give them the streetwear that they're going to want to print on top of? No,
it's funny you say that because we can move pretty quickly. We can react to the market and go to market pretty quickly, right? Because we literally knit, dye, cut, sew everything, right? So we look at what's happening, but like, what's the longevity? Remember 6 years ago, everybody wanted long scallop tees.
Yeah.
That was a cool shirt, but it was very unique to a specific person. Like you gotta be skinny, you gotta be tall, because if you're too short, it's down to your knees or whatever, right? So it was hard to gauge. It was more of literally a style.
I just looked like I was wearing like a pajama shirt. That's all.
A nice shirt?
Yeah.
Classic.
I had my pajama shirt on, walking around in public.
Oh my God. But now, like, I was on the way in, I was just thinking like how this, I don't even want to say oversized shirt, like this relaxed tee.
Yeah.
It's going to be around for a very long time in the sense of it's going to be the new norm.
Yeah.
Like in a sense of like, it's not baggy, it's not style, it's just a very comfortable shirt, right? It's not really distinguished by being long or down to, it's just a very comfortable shirt. So I think a lot of dudes and like collegiate kids, they're going to wear that throughout. So for us, when we look at cues like that, we understand like we're not really developing a new style. Like what's something people want to wear? Like the level of comfort. Are we going to use a 20 singles? Is it going to be comb? Is it going to be an enzyme wash? Whatever it might be, right? It's like, how do we create something people want to wear that's very comfortable? And so that's kind of how our path we develop as far as like moving forward, as far as styling of it, right? So we did that heavyweight t-shirt, the Ultimate Tee, which has been very, very well received. And then we did a couple like women's sweatshirts that's a little bit oversized. It's kind of have like an Everlane vibe, Jacquemus vibe, where it's like, it's cool, But man, it's very structurally, casually, like a classic looking garment, but maybe just a little bit oversized waistband.
Yeah.
But those subtle cues make it like distinguishable from like other things. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Hey, Jeremy, so as a sales professional, I'm curious, like when I think about it, I'm thinking people just go and buy a shirt from a website or from a webpage. I'm not criticizing your role, by the way. I'm just more curious, like what's your day-to-day job? What is it that you do? Like what's clientele do you go after? What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, kind of the peek behind the curtain, right? Like, what do you guys do on the sales role? Like there's everybody buys t-shirts. How do you like manifest like your next sale or try to grab like a new, you know what it is? You're always going to have your core screen printers, right? You know, that is the bread and butter. That's what makes our industry. Like the t-shirt guy and the screen printer are like tied to the hip, like goes hand in hand. Yeah. Like we got to work collaborative, like to bring business together, right? But how do you do it? You find pain points or, hey, this might be a great fit because you got DTG and we could do something together where I know a guy who needs DTG guy connect with you, but you also do fulfillment. That's an added bonus and he'll just give you all the business. So for me, it's like connecting dots, right? Like I look at the landscape of like, okay, I segregate it by like, here's my outdoor brands, my street brands, my screen printers, then all of a sudden direct to consumer guys, right? And like, what's that one thing they have in common? It's just like, they all want t-shirts. So my day to day is really, honestly, it's connecting dots. Like, how do you find out like what shirt that guy is using through what printer? And then maybe I could work with a printer, finding them a better garment at a better value or solve what that pain point is. So you could probably capture more business outside of like that one shirt, right? What could we do different? Maybe not so much like we're going to replace an existing garment you're printing with, but it's more like, how could we add on to that?
Yeah.
So you get more stuff to print. And that's our parlay. That's how we kind of slide our way in there. So honestly, day to day, it's like you just go and it's hard to gauge because like after this meeting, I'm going to Vernon, the armpit of LA, but it's, they want to do a custom private label shirt. So I got to present all my fabrics, right? But then it's fast. It's fun. I'm stumbling because, man, there's just so much out there. It's just law of engagement, man. So DMs, LinkedIn, the whole thing. So
I mean, how do you manage that? I mean, if there's not like a CRM for Instagram, like how are you managing it?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like managing your priorities, managing your sales, remembering to even follow up.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed by you guys because you like, whether or not I even buy blanks, I'm clearly on some sort of like calendar where it's like, okay, well, we're just going to see him in 3 months, regardless of what's going on and whatever. So there must be some structure to it.
No, there is. You know, with our CRM, what we do is like we segregate it by categories, whether it be retail opportunity, private label, like I mentioned kind of earlier, or different categories within brands, right? Outdoor brand or street brand or whatever, or surf brand. Mm-hmm. So within our CRM, there's certain touches we want to be able to have access to, right? We know like, okay, because once you're locked into a program with some of these existing guys, you're not going to be able to break through unless you come with something different or a unique selling point of like what they might need that they never thought of. So you almost have to wear their hat. So the way we manage it is that we have an internal structure of 5 inside sales reps. Each one is divided up and manages certain segments of the business, right? So it kind of allows them to give you that white glove service or that level of expertise because they truly understand that industry. So it allows us to speak more eloquently and literally on their level, like a level of understanding and not really like showing them these 10 other garments where they really don't need, but they're really focused on these other dozen, right? Mm-hmm. So with that being said, these inside sales reps, their focus is on different industries. And it allows them to manage their book of business, like their own little Rolodex of how they want to manage their day-to-day and how many touches they want to get. So it allows us as an entire company at the end of each week, we kind of do a quick overview of like the level of engagement, the level of interest, and what next steps would be. And quite often there's some guys that when you ask them, hey, have you ever considered USA? They're like, no, I haven't. We're not here to like replace that amazing Honduras shirt you have that's been working well for you the last 5 years, but given your other competitors and blah, 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 have launched another category with only like 3-4 shirts, would you be interested in doing something like that allow you to like drive new revenue? Mm-hmm. And that really allows to open their eyes. So yeah, at the end of the week, we do a lot of touches, a lot of catch up, very specific categories each account manager manages, and it allows them to speak upon that in a very high intelligent way.
And when you get that pushback about American made and maybe price, what is kind of the main pitch? I mean, it seems like everyone wants American made until they have to pay $2 more.
Yeah.
So how do you normally address that?
You know, it's funny, about 15, 20 minutes ago when we first launched, you know, the outside looking in is like looking at our brand like, oh, you guys are USA made. You guys are just really just a basic t-shirt and 3M guys and best guys, which is great, right? We're fine because we're really happy with what we do. And we've developed something really unique in the last 30 years. Honestly, my breakthrough is exactly what you just said. We're not the most forward branding marketing agency that does a great, you know, like marketing feel or post on social media. We're kind of like these silent partners who do really nice t-shirts.
Yeah.
So don't anticipate us to have pricing that where a lot of suppliers now are really great at marketing and have been able to capture that market on a broader scale because they touch so many people. But guess what? With that marketing dollar spent in that position of where they want to be, they're going to sell a $5, $6 shirt, right? Given that when I say 5, 6, like through like SNS or Alpha or a distributor, right? It could be a tri-blend or like a comb cotton. Our shirts are pretty much the same price.
Yeah.
And so like, hey, our starting point, and guess what? It's the same as that favorite shirt you have that's coming out of Nicaragua or whatever in Central America, but ours is just made in USA, right? And so once they understand that, they were like, oh, you're right. Yeah, here, I'll show you the pricing. Let me know what you might pay for that shirt that you buy. Like, okay, then once they kind of break through that barrier of them understanding like where our starting point is, it allows them to kind of like structurally like position how they want to do the full package. Our shirt versus that shirt, but here's other pros using a USA shirt. And guess what? It's up to 57 free off Imperial Highway. If you want to take a look at it, you could cruise up, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and not only that, but like we just ran a bunch of union shirts from you guys.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. Like if they're a union shop or a union business, the amount people will pay for union is crazy.
Yeah.
And so tell me, like in your structure, if you have American made factory workers, but then you have union only shirts, what is the difference? And like, what's the lifestyle of that union workers like versus just your normal American worker? Like, what are you paying for other than that tag?
To be quite frank, it's where it's being sewn.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we're doing all of our fabric down in like that way. I always say by the Tesla SpaceX building off the 105.
Yeah.
So all of our fabric's coming from there. It's dye house as well. Then we sew and assemble in braille. So we do two things. After we do all that, we can either cut and sew it in braille, which is our main headquarters, or we cut it in braille, then we could have it get sewn at a union shop. Or we actually have a third fold, which is brand new. Well, it's kind of brand new, but we just kind of don't really push it that much. We have a factory down in Baja, does like Mexican garments that will compete like an amazing like Bella shirt or an amazing like Silva shirt, that whole category. But in regards to your union question, it's the same fabric in the same shirt. Okay. So we would mimic i.e. like our 5100, which is a 6 ounce open end, really tight, like a really nice shirt, right? But people just want that shirt as a union shirt. So it would be sewn in a union factory.
And is the union factory owned by you still, or is that maybe a third party?
That's through a third party, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like with those union contracts, do you feel like the quality's actually better with it, or? I mean,
it's hard to gauge because our quality, the USA one, we do ourselves, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
They're both equally the same. Then I don't really see that much of a difference, to be quite honest. It's, you know, the reason they want it is because the people who are behind it is the people behind it is also union.
Yeah.
And the people, Teamsters buying it, the local, all those guys, it's almost like they want their guys involved.
Yeah.
And part of that step, right? So, and there's also union screen print shops. There's not many, but there are. There's a big one in Oakland. There's a big one in Canoga Park. Sometimes they want it to go all the way through to that point. And that's when it's going to cost them cheese. You could imagine. Like, honestly, I'm hearing a one color, 144 piece, one location. It's like $6.25.
Nice.
Crazy, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's good. Like, you always want labor to get like what they're worth, but especially when California already has kind of like high minimums to begin with. You just wonder, like, what makes a union shop even better than just a well-run Orange County shop or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
you got to realize we're all using the same, like, there's no new equipment like M&R launches.
It's just an auto.
Just new, you know what I mean? Like, no, it's just another M&R 12 color station.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right?
So welcome to the anti-union show. Yeah, well, that's cool. So Moving on from that, like, tell me a little bit about like the dyeing process, because you always hear these other brands talk about how they're unbelievably eco-friendly in like the dyeing process, and they waste less water. But a lot of them don't even do it in the States. So what's kind of the differentiator there, trying to actually do it stateside? I know we have a lot more regulations to begin with before you even try to like, limit your own output.
So first of all, I don't know if not many people know about 5-6 years ago when American Apparel was going up for sale. Yeah. Right. Gildan bought the name. We were the guys who bought all the factories, the knitting factory, the dye house. We bought most of them. Some of them were just kind of
too bad.
Ran down a shambles of field. So the one we did acquire is the biggest one, which is down by that space, like in Hawthorne, actually. Now I just remembered. So we completely rebooted that thing. Took almost like a year and a half to get that up and running to where it needs to be as far as being compliant with the city, literally the whole thing. So with your question being asked, we recycle everything, recycle our steam. It's all compliant through the city, the county, the state, et cetera. And a lot of that, their regulation behind it is extremely strenuous, as you can imagine, because where's that water going, right? Yeah. And I'll be quite frank, I'm not in too deep understanding that whole process as far as like that side of our story or that side of our business. But I do know on the surface level, if you want to call it, is that we do recycle our steam. There's a lot of process and regulations that we're very compliant with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that for most people, when they hear the pitch from any brand, a name of like the 7 big brands, they always just start saying certifications to you. Yeah. And they're just acronyms that don't really mean anything. So it's interesting to see like what that looks like in practice. Yeah. Where do you guys get all your cotton from?
So all of our cotton comes from the Carolinas. Yeah. We do all of it through Parkdale. Okay. So as far as certification, you can certify that. Yeah. Cotton from the Carolinas, knit dye cut sew here in Southern California.
And then for the cotton, have you guys messed with any of the organic side of it, or is that just never really paid off?
We've been messaged quite honestly, actually a lot. Yeah. About organics and things like that. The thing is, of our volume, what we're trying to do to make it work internally is that our supply chain for USA organics is very limited. So if we even try to dabble in that world, the fluctuation of availability changes because, quite honestly, there's not a lot of USA organic available. Yeah. And if we're the leaders in that space, we need a supply chain that could support that, right? Otherwise, we're just going to they'll
just run out of stock.
Yeah, run out of stock, and we're going to come up with a big bang, and all of a sudden it goes flat. Then all these empty promises that we have to such large retailers or brands or that we're trying to pitch it to, it's like we just ran into the wall, Yeah. So it's been kind of a thing that we've always wanted to explore, but quite frankly, it's just not really there.
What about some of the products like Reprieve, where it's the recycled polyester threads?
So that one, we were looking at that recycled polyester recently. Costing given USA and where the industry is at right now, what they're asking for, and especially what a lot of other people are doing as far as importing that in with blending it with imported yarns or imported fabric with the Reprieve, we're not going to be competitive. It's going to be beyond the reach. We're looking at $9-10 a shirt. Ugh. Yeah. And that's like on a 30 singles basic soft shirt, right? Or something. Like, how do you turn to that? So
yeah, that's interesting how the cost really starts to affect it all.
And guess what? That guy who's importing a very like-minded shirt and a great shirt, $550. Yeah. Like, what do you do?
Not to mention his cost on it is so much lower than $550.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so you're just kind of like in this spot where like, is the demand really that high, and are they ready for like a $10 shirt?
I mean,
I don't know.
Tell us a little bit about the sewers, because even just our minimum wage is like $15.50 or something in California. Yeah. I'm sure your sewers make a little bit more than that. Tell us about that compared to like a Honduras sewer. Like, what is the quality of life there?
No, the quality of life is fantastic in the sense of like a lot of stuff that we offer within the sewing that in our factory associates and the team that we have there, whether it's to the front of the house or the back of the house, it's like a restaurant, the front of the house, the back of the house, the whole thing, right? Everybody's equally engaged, equally opportunity, right? So as far as like really cool things where we have like a floating holiday, you could take a floating holiday anytime you want. As far as like our pay salary, from my understanding, there's a few people in our line, they're making $65,000-$70,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
Like,
do you pay like a per piece plus a minimum or something?
That I'm not sure how that works. I think they're all just, some are on hourly, some are on salary. Yeah. And We employ almost about 800 people.
On the line or total?
Oh, total. I'm sorry,
Okay.
within the entire company, from the dye house,
Yeah.
the whole deal. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. But geez, where I was going to.
They get paid well?
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, they get paid very well.
Yeah.
And as far as the environment that we create, it's people. What I was saying is like about 15 or 20% of our staff, which is about what 200 people, they've been over there for over 15 years.
Wow.
Like,
So it's just like a
they know like this is where it's at. And you see it coming from the ownership as well. Tomorrow I told you he's in the back there as well, loading pallets, things like that. There's a lot of perks that they give that are outside of like non-business related, where we go on like team outings to a Clippers game or a Lakers game. They rent multiple boxes, a lot of random team dinners. Every other Friday we have a barbecue. So there's a lot of fun environmental things that we do to really keep that spirit moving forward.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing a lot of like people generationally, like we had like a mom and father, their son started to work there because they got promoted into like a supervisor management level and they wanted their son to work there as well too. So like we're seeing a lot of people start bringing onboarding their families as well too, which is kind of cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, being in the East Coast, I mean, I've seen you guys at the trade shows. I've seen some of you guys' booth. I didn't see a big I didn't see a big present for Bayside in the East Coast. Was that intentionally, or you guys mainly West Coast focus? What's up with that?
So on the East Coast, the thing is, man, there's a lot of shows, like a lot of trade shows. The previous company I worked at, we did 55 shows.
Yeah.
That was our marketing. Boots on the ground, classic, shake hands, kiss the baby. And it worked for a while. And all of a sudden, here comes like 2015, or whatever, like 2000s. Marketing's changed, right? Digital content curators, things like that. And so for us, like we got to choose, right? We do all the GPX shows. There's a couple out there in the East Coast. One's in Baltimore and one's in the Carolinas, in Charlotte. But to answer your question, we don't do that much East Coast shows. There's not a lot of big active shows that makes us feel like, okay, let's invest in that show. Mm-hmm. And honestly, these shows, like even like the smaller mid-tier shows, just to get a booth, like 15 grand.
Yeah.
Then you're all in with fly, hotel, like 25 grand for just 2.5 days, right? And so strategically, we're just trying to find like what makes our mark back east that's very big as what has been going on in the Chicago's, Dallas, and the LA area, where you know that return is like a lot of foot traffic, right?
Right.
So it's just, we haven't really found the right show that really felt like it would be impactful for us to do. Outside of, we do a lot of open houses with SNS or Alpha Broder, which are back east, and the GPX show, which is kind of like Virginia, Carolina, not really Northeast. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
How about customer base? Are they predominantly West Coast folks, or are they in the East Coast as well?
You know, it's a good question. We get a lot of people. We see our pockets are from Baltimore, Texas. I'm just thinking right now, like the Wisconsin, Chicago area, Minnesota area, and then the West. But everything in between, like when you get into the Utahs, the Floridas, the Georgias, or the Kentuckys, or Pacific Northwest, not that strong as far as like a USC demographic. But even within those pockets I mentioned, we have one or two major guys that really push that box. Mm-hmm. But those are kind of the pockets where we see a lot of activity for USA requests. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the trade shows, we're all flying out to the Fort Worth one like next week.
Yeah.
What do you look for to get out of a trade show so that you don't just end up wasting 3 days?
You know what? It's a mixture of things. Because I mentioned Texas is also one of the spots. We like to invite a lot of our customers that we're able to see. Because right now, as far as Bayside, there's only 2 outside reps. Mm-hmm. It's Nadir and I. And we're the only ones that are able to like get access outside of our internal team calling and touching. It's different when you obviously visit and do stuff like this, right? Mm-hmm. We invite people to our booth. We do meetings at the booth. We just hope we're able to really just kind of tell our story of seeing what USA options are out there. And you'll be surprised. A lot of people, I got a guy who buys USA once in a while. They're asking for it. Our goal is just really just to kind of get our name out there in a sense of like reminding people we're the USA guy. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, sometimes when you go on some of these websites, if you type USA, oddly enough, we're not the first ones to be popped up. You're going to find Gildan. Like, what the heck? How would they, like, you know what I mean?
I think there are,
So it's almost
there are
like-
those random ones.
Yeah.
It's like Hanes Made in USA tea.
Yeah.
And it's one specific tea and the stock's terrible.
Yeah.
And they all seem to have at least one option in that sense.
Yeah. It's our idea is really kind of like a friendly reminder, invite some of our customers to the booth that we're already doing business with. And really also allows us arrive a day before, leave a day later to go visit our customers in that area too, which is kind of always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not actually kind of, it's always fun. I like doing that.
Is there anything happening Friday night? Me and Gavin we have to get busy.
Friday, nothing Friday night. I was thinking about, I was like,
It's normally Saturday nights.
yeah. There was that one spot down in Fort Worth where all the cattle, it's a like a historic spot. Are you familiar with Fort Worth, Eric?
I've been once because I went and saw Made Labs.
Yeah, okay.
But I basically went to Made Labs and left.
Okay.
But yeah, they have some sort of
Stockyard, that's what it's
Yeah,
called. Yeah, Stockyard just popped up.
I'm sure that they're, especially like the rock guys or something, are probably doing something, but they seem to do that every show.
Yeah.
Where there's like something on Saturday night that they do a big blowout.
And ISS is always a good show. I feel like they always have a really good draw, like a blended mix of like incoming newbies to the industry who are really trying to understand and dive in, but respectfully, they're able to pull away shop owners like yourself, like typically who wouldn't want to leave on a Wednesday or Thursday because, hey, it's a great show. There's a lot of things, new things I could go view and see. So I've always liked going to ISS a lot.
Yeah. I don't know when this comes out, but we're going to be doing a class Friday morning.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that'll be me and Gavin's reason for going to this
At the
specific
convention.
one. Yeah, at the convention.
You guys have like a hall where they like, hey, you're blah, 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 like masterclass type thing?
Yeah, Gavin, tell him our masterclass.
Yeah, if you're going to be at the trade show, come to our class. Simple systems and AI tools to help modernize your screen printing shop. So we'll show shops how they could organize their business, simplify it, create systems and processes. A lot of the things that a lot of screen printing shop owners struggle with. Because, we all creators, we get into this with a lot of passion, but a lot of us struggle with the business side of things. All right, so this class is really to help sharpen up that tool. And also Cole is, this is not just going to be theories, because I know a lot of the class that people go to, they hear like theories and these things that you should be doing. In this class, it's a different approach where we'll show you an actual example. Cole has run his business for 10 years, over close to a decade. I ran a screen printing shop for 7 years. So all of these experiences we'll share with the people that attend this class. Should be fun.
Yeah, my plan for my section is to literally just go through an entire life of a order. So that entire workflow, including like the different integrations I have with all the different software, will just be shown step by step. And the idea isn't that I have like the perfect process, but hopefully it gives people ideas where they're like, oh, I've never used that tool before, and I want to implement that specific tool the way that Cole's doing it, or in a way similar to what I'm doing. Because I see so many people where like they buy Printavo and they're just done. Like that's their entire process for their print shop. And then a lot of times they're not even using most of the tools that are inside of Printavo. So just to give people some more ideas, that's kind of the general goal.
That's cool. Yeah, I still go into like shops today, classic. Just you see all the this week's work on the mood board or post-it note magnets. Like it works, but it doesn't work.
That was the
there's
first
gonna be you know what I mean? Like
the first shop I worked in, we did wet erase magnets.
Yeah,
and so someone would place an order. You would get a big manila envelope. Put the invoice in it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If they gave you like, sometimes we'd just like put a USB thumb drive in it. With,
oh
like,
my God, here's the artwork.
Handed us the art, and then it was a magnet. And heaven forbid someone didn't put that folder in order because we had shelves, like floor to ceiling shelves of all these orders from like probably 1988, and it was just a nightmare. And then the films would get put in them, and then you would, if you had a consistent client, you would have 37 pieces of film in there. Because it's like every job from all their stuff keep getting added to these folders. The folders get ratty and worse. And it was a nightmare back then. I don't know how you could be doing that now, but I'm sure some people do. I know some people still are on film just in general because they haven't gone to computer to screen. So just organizing your films is still a nightmare, I guess.
Man, I feel like it's like they keep going through your garage. And you're like, dude, should I clean the garage this weekend? I don't know what I'm gonna uncover. Like, all of a sudden, you go down this rabbit hole. Like, oh crap.
The best thing about us buying that computer to screen was throwing away our films because we had. I don't even know. I mean, we probably had 10,000 pieces of film.
Wow.
And we were always like resorting and maybe we should go by customer name. Maybe we should go by invoice number. Maybe like, none of that is a good answer.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, one day you're like, you know what? Let's just throw it away. It was like the most freeing experience to get rid of all this old art that was basically worthless to anyone else. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's cool.
So, anything you want to specifically plug for Bayside before we wrap it up? Any new products coming down the pike for fall?
You know, we got stuff coming out for next year that we're kind of finalizing right now. But I think the biggest thing I feel like people want to walk away from, like this really cool podcast, definitely appreciate you guys having me on board.
Yeah, thanks.
It's really just the USA option, really. Like we just say, hey, have you guys ever considered that? Because honestly, once we ask that question and that customer poses it on their customer, if you will, they realize, oh wow, actually there is. I never really just asked that question, right? Given it's not gonna be all of a sudden here's a 10,000 piece order, but you just start something. So I feel like if you give it an opportunity and you ask the right questions without being too invasive, it might open up new opportunities for them to kind of like open their eyes, be like, I never thought about that. That's really cool because here I am now, 5 years later, I'm getting some pretty solid orders on USA, and that's now I'm kind of becoming like that USA guy to go to as far as like screen printing things or questions about it. So yeah, that's kind of it.
It's a great niche to go into for people that are already serving, roofers and stuff. If you just give them that option,
there's a lot,
they
man.
like it.
You realize that outdoor company, like we go to outdoor retailer, Bass Pro Shops, we do a lot of shirts for them, Cabela's. It's fascinating, man. We do a big Costco program called the Flag Tee, but you'll be surprised how many people use it. And chances are, if there's another USA shirt out there, they're probably using our fabric because we do a lot of that stuff for contract work too. So yeah.
Jeremy, help me with this. So I'm going through this right now. So setting up like a sales department for a small business, right? Obviously, you work in a bigger business.
Yeah.
And you came in, like you were one of the leaders as a sales professional. Like to you, what are the foundation or what are the steps to take to build a sales organization?
When you say organization, like a team in a sense?
Small, let's say a small team of 1 to 2 guys.
You know what? The biggest thing that I would say is clarity. Because in this world, there's any industry in a sense, you could kind of get sidetracked because there's opportunities everywhere. You're just thinking like, how do we focus on like one thing and be great at it? And I think clarity of understanding like what their goals are in a sense or what they should be focusing on. And that's why we kind of divided up into different segments where they just become like the pro's pro. Like, wow, I didn't know about that. Well, yeah, I deal with blah, 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 blah. Okay, I didn't know that. So I think honestly, to answer your question, is clarity and an understanding of like what their roles are and what they're going to, what are they going to, like, basically just when they get to the office, like they know exactly what they're going to bring to the table and they become passionate about it because all of a sudden it's not diluted and they get lost in a shuffle of like, there's no direction or what are we doing? But when they know they have a direction, a purpose, they just go, man.
Yeah. What are you looking for as far as like metrics? What are some of the things that
we look at a lot, honestly, for us, like on a day-to-day or weekly, we look at our touches, right? Because I know all these guys, the background, they all could speak very well. I don't want to say they're all like bros, but they're the guys that are very jolly and they could just chat it up without feel like you're selling them a product. Like kind of like what we're doing today, right? So I know as far as like the content or what type of conversation happening, I'm not really curious about that because I know what they're capable of. It's just more like, hey, how many people did you call it? You call it, oh, that's cool. Anything cool from it? Yeah, I met this guy. He prints for blah, blah, blah. No way. I actually was trying to reach that guy through another avenue like a month ago. I'm that crazy if stumbled across your table. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Very nice. Yeah, I have a hard time with reaching out to people like cold like that.
Yeah.
It's a whole skill set to be able to like not just be a spam caller.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Like to not just feel like you're pestering people?
I think you know why? We don't have a playbook.
Yeah.
Like we have a guy, Francis, inside. This guy has like that radio DJ voice. Like, this guy's smooth, man. And it's like, dude, you should be on a DJ or something. Like, you should be like, you shouldn't be here. You should be like hosting like a show or something. But anyways, he's like, hey, how you doing, boss? He's just like, I'm here. You came up on my list. I wanted to give you a call, blah, blah, blah. Just reminding you that we're Bayside, we blah, 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 we're the biggest mentor. If you ever need an option, like, oh yeah. Then they kind of like, we do use you. And it's very inviting, right?
Yeah.
So for them, it's kind of like they get to be themselves. They're not really going on this like script, and they have like the hook. It's just, what's up? You're on the phone 30 seconds, or you could be on the phone for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It depends how long the customer wants to talk, right? But sometimes I see them on the phone for like pretty long time, given like, it's like, I don't want to say a cold call, but it's just like, hey, we haven't spoken to you like in a year or whatever. And like, they want to talk to Francis, or they want to talk to Roberto, whoever it is, right? It's like, it's cool to see that, because it knows that our team is that inviting, and they get it, and they're not really trying to push a sale.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks again for all your time. I know we're pretty much out of time. So, all right. If anyone wants to reach out to you directly, what's the email or the?
Yeah. If you have any questions, it's just Jeremy, Jeremy, at astsportswear.com. You might get thrown off. AST Sportswear. That's our parent company that owns Bayside and the whole conglomerate. So Jeremy at astsportswear.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much. And thanks to everyone listening. Like, subscribe, and tell your mom about us. All right. Bye.
Thanks, Sean.